Today's lesson, we're going to continue talking about learning target 1, but dealing with rule number 4, which is talking about power of 0. So when we have a power of 0 to anything, we cancel out everything to that power. So for the first example, I have 2/3 to the 0 power. So even if I didn't quite understand what this is, I know what 2/3 is, and I could put it into my calculator. So anytime I do anything to the 0 power, I will get the value of 1. Just like if I took 3 divided by 3, I get 1. Because of those exponents, 1 minus 1 would be 0, so it would be the same idea. Here, same idea. Even though I have an x and a y here, it's all to the power of 0, so that gets me a value of 1. And then sometimes you have pieces that are that, so this negative 2y to the 0 power cancels out because it's to the 0 power, so that part is 1, so that just leaves us with 7y to the 4th. Okay? So let's kind of put all our rules together here, including with this new rule, if it shows up, and when it does, we'll take care of it. So number 1, I see that a squared to the second is there, so then that looks like it's rule number 2 because it's a power to power. So then I take the 2 through and distribute it to that square inside. Notice that the negative 4 does not get this because it's not inside the parentheses, so it does not get that square. Okay, from there, it looks like I have a bunch of division, so that would be rule number 3 that we learned in the last video. So negative 4 divided by negative 20 would be separated from the a's, and that gets me 1/5. And then I have an a to the 4th divided by a to the 5th, so that's 4 minus 5, which gets me a to the negative 1st. And we haven't quite gotten to negative exponents yet, so we'll talk about that in the next video. So I'm going to leave it as a to the negative 1st here. Number 2, looks like I have another rule number 2 going on at the top in the numerator with that 3 on the outside of that parentheses. So I'm going to take that 3 and distribute it to the square of the b, the cube of the k, and then the 1 exponent for the 5. And so that'll give me 5 cubed, k to the 9th, b to the 6th. And then from there, it looks like I have some more rule number 3 going on, where I can divide like bases. Now, you can either choose to take the 5s and subtract them, or you can just change 5 cubed to 125. Either way, it doesn't matter. So in this case, I chose to change it. So I have 125 divided by 5, k to the 9th minus 7th, and since there's no other b in the denominator, I just leave it as b to 6. So that gets me 25 k squared b to the 6 is my final answer. Number 3, first thing I noticed that 16x to the y, or xy to the 0 power is there, so that's rule number 4. So then that just cancels out because it's just 1, and so then I can move the rest of my stuff down and move forward. Okay, the next thing I notice is that there's a 5 on the outside of that last parentheses, so that means I'm going to distribute that 5 through using rule number 2. And so then I get negative 2 to the 5th times x to the 15th times y to the 5th in that parentheses. And then from there, I can simplify even further using rule number 1, because I have a bunch of multiplication of like bases with the x's that are going on and the numbers as well. So I'll put negative 3 with negative 32, because that's what negative 2 to the 5th is. And then from there, x to the 4th plus 15 would be what I put in the next parentheses, and y to the 5th just by itself, so I just leave it on the outside at the end. Okay, so negative 3 times negative 32 is 96, and then I get x to the 19th times y to the 5th, and that would be my final answer. Okay. Number 4 here, I see that q is to the 0 power here, so that's 1. So I get canceled out using rule number 4 as well. And then from there, I rewrite the rest of my stuff. And then I notice that there's a square in the denominator. So using rule number 2, we will distribute that 2 through to the cubed of the j, the 5 of the q, and the 1 exponent for the 4. So then from there I get 4 to the 2nd, q to the 10th, j to the 6th in the denominator. I notice that the 5 and the 4 squared, which is 16, in the denominator kind of go together, so I'm going to group them together. There is no q for this using rule number 3. So I'm going to leave q to the 10th in the denominator, so it doesn't really get subtracted by anything. It just stays just like the y to the 5th in the other one. It doesn't move up or down, so it just stays in the denominator. So I put 1 over q to the 10th here. And then because I have 2 j's, I'm going to do 6 minus 6 in the exponent, which will get me j to the 0 power. And so from there, we know that that's rule number 4. So it's going to get canceled out. So that's going to leave me with an answer of 5 divided by 16 times q to the 10th for my answer. Okay? See you next time.